Here we have some classic cup marks dating back to the Bronze or Neolithic age. So that's 4,000 to 5,000 years old, possibly even older than that. There's some dispute as to how many of these there are recorded in Britain, but it's probably safe to say that there are over 1,000. But cup marks like this are found over a far wider area than just Britain. But here's the rub. Nobody actually knows what they are for. Let's have a look at some of the ideas about these prehistoric rock art carvings. Oh, and by the way, we've found one in a park. This one is a very typical set of cup marks, and it's located in a plantation overlooking the Neolithic Axe Factory on the Pike O'Stickle in the Lake District. And we've had a look at that in 2 other videos, neither of which were particularly loved, so I'd like you to go and watch those after this one. I'll put the links at the end. But this prehistoric rock art takes many other forms, and there's a fabulous place down the valley here in Great Langdale where we can look at some of the other motifs. It seems to be fading away fast, so we better get a move on. Before we do though, we'll just do a quick recap on the Axe Factory for those of you who have been remiss enough not to have watched those videos. 5,000 years ago, they were mining the greenstone up there at a high altitude on the Pike O'Stickle, choosing to do that rather than getting it lower down for reasons that we clearly don't understand. And the rough outs that they created were distributed across the country, and they account for 27% of the finds of Neolithic axes. It's therefore not an unrealistic thing to propose that those cup marks up there in the plantation were created by the people who were settled here, the Neolithic people who settled, cleared the woodland and worked the factory. But why? What were they for? Let's go and look at the Great Langdale Boulder and find out a little bit more about these designs. And of course, I've got the YouTube teleport power now at my full disposal. Oh, Christ, I've got to get the hang of this. Oh. How is a YouTuber meant to maintain one's dignity with this teleporting malarkey? Welcome to the Langdale Boulders, also known as Copped How. And this is a great place for cup and ring mark chasers because we have the greatest concentration of concentric rings as anywhere in the UK. And this is a great site to illustrate the variety of these prehistoric rock art carvings. We've got cup marks here, concentric circles, chevrons, spirals, lines, and all manner of other motifs, including a weird sort of fish-shaped one. Now, unfortunately, the art seems to be deteriorating fast. Fading away and disappearing under the moss. We're going to have to use some overlays to try and show you how it all works here. 3, 2, 1, and we're now in the studio in our slippers, all together, far too relaxed. Now, in order to unpack the design on this boulder, we're going to take a look first at what we were able to capture some footage of on this side of the wall. You may notice that some of the designs are really low down on the boulder. There's clearly been a hell of a lot of build-up of the ground surface, which I guess is not surprising, over 5,000 to 6,000 years. So this is what we were able to get in terms of footage of what was visible. And then we're going to have a look at some photography of the same. I imagine they'll probably put a sort of camera frame type thing on that and possibly apply a camera sort of shutter type of sound as well. And then we'll jump over the wall and have a look at what was visible here. Again, having a look at the footage that we're able to get. Quite difficult to make this out. Clearly, after so many millennia, the designs themselves have really faded, but we've got all this moss and lichen, or is it lichen? Like and subscribe. I don't know why I'm affecting this sort of husky and slightly dreamy voice on this voiceover. I sound a little bit like a commentator on the 1970s snooker championships. I hadn't anticipated this before I came to the Langdale Boulders, but I think it's pretty clear that this wall that has been inconsiderately installed at some point is dividing the Neolithic Axe Factory workers, if that's who it was that created this. It's dividing their plan in half. Now, we need to use some real state-of-the-art technology here to pull this all together and enable you to visualize what the thing actually looks like. Wow, that's really quite impressive. I just grabbed my notes here because we're going to have a quick chat about Blamire's Guidestones to the Great Langdale Axe Factory. Blamire sounds a little bit like a character of Last of the Summer Wine, doesn't he? And actually somebody said that in the comments recently. They said that I look like the characters from The Last of the Summer Wine, all three of them. Now, Blamire effectively has this as a map of the valley to help the Axe Factory workers, and we've put a bit of state-of-the-art tech up on the screen here to graphically represent that. We have to rotate the design about 180 degrees to make that work on the map. Essentially, the lines are the routes through the valley, the large circles are the Langdale pikes, the weird fish-shaped thing is stickletarn, the four curved lines are stickle gill, and then we've got broad crag and silver how. The light marks are the settlement, and essentially it's a plan of the axe factories around harrisonstickle. I think you've got to hand it to old Blamire. It's actually quite a clever interpretation of the design. It does actually sort of work. We just need to talk a little bit about distribution of these designs. They're actually not just in Britain. They're found in Ireland, Wales, Scotland, Brittany, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Azerbaijan. I hope I've identified that correctly on this overlay. Greece, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland and Switzerland. And there are very similar designs elsewhere, including Australia, Mexico and India. Fascinating that this cup and ring mark design travelled so far. The communication involved in that is mind-boggling, really. We need to also just take a few moments to consider the amount of effort that went into carving these things into the rocks. We assume, and probably rightly, that the Neolithic people were having to really focus on survival, food, shelter, warmth, that sort of thing. So the undertaking here is quite significant. And like a lot of other YouTubers, we've done some of our detailed statistical analysis here to conclude that we think it took a lot of effort. I have a number of challenges to Blamire's admittedly really quite good idea. How would you identify the boulder amidst the jumble here? Why would a guidestone be needed? The factory workers were settled here for over 1,000 years, we believe. What, did they forget their way to work every day? But the main problem is why we're using the cup and ring marks here to represent the fells. As we've seen, they are ubiquitous over an extensive area. Why would they represent a mountain here? It would be a little bit like us using a 30-mile-per-hour speed restriction sign to represent the planets of the solar system. But nonetheless, Blamire has come up with something quite intriguing here, I think. The simple truth is that we haven't got a clue what this is for. Possibly it was a work roster planner for the Axe Factory. So, Neolithic Fred, you're working up there today, and Neolithic Sally, you're working over there today because we're a Neolithic Equal Opportunities employer. Some think that these are to do with a sacrificial practice. That doesn't work for me here. If these All of these cut marks here are designed to capture the spilt blood of a sacrificial victim. Well, it's all going to flow out, isn't it? So that doesn't work. Another idea is that this display is a blackboard, a way of teaching the Neolithic children. How on earth is that going to work? Think of the effort that would go into carving this. What's the teacher going to say? Hey, Neolithic school children, go and read your stone tablets for a couple of weeks while I knock this up. There are just so many possibilities as to what this labour-intensive rock art was all about. In his 1979 book, Ronald Morris comes up with 104 different theories as to what it is, including things like maps of the heavens, journey planners, rituals, obviously this sacrifice idea as well. But the simple truth is, we just don't know. Right, we've speculated too much. I am going to tell you at the end of this video what I think they might be all about. But now I know what you want to do is you want to see some rock art in a park. So let's teleport away. Whoa! I will get the hang of this. We are in the park. The park here is in the Lake District town of Grasmere, famous for Wordsworth's host of golden daffodils, gingerbread, and Hang the DJ by the Smiths. And over here between the park and a car park, we have in this very 21st century setting, this really interesting mound. Whilst those adults play on the zip wire over there, let's go up this mound and have a look. So childish and attention-seeking. How marvellous is this? Atop a mound, between a park and a pay and display, we have something really fantastic to have a look at. Now, I've got to be a little bit careful here because the rock is very slippery. In the past, I think they've counted in excess of 50 cup marks on this outcrop. Unfortunately, it's become a bit moss covered and I can't see anywhere near that many, but I can see some and they are beautiful. And as well as the cup marks, there are these really intriguing horizontal and vertical lines gouged across the surface as well. Of course, we don't know that they are contemporary with the cup marks, but they look pretty ancient to me. What I really love about finds like this in this sort of tourist hotspot today that once featured on top of the pops with the Smiths is the implication that there's been human activity here going back over 5,000 years. All the visible cup marks on top of the outcrop here today are actually on the top, on the sort of most level part of the rock, which possibly lends some credence to this idea that they were designed to capture rainwater or even blood from human sacrifice. As usual, I don't know why I said it in that voice. Blooming marvellous, I say. Prehistoric rock art in the park, and hopefully a suitably clickbaity title for this video's success. No daffodils, but we have got some bluebells and some yellow ones. Oh, there are some daffodils, just slightly manky ones. I know I'm going to get savaged in the comments down below, but I am going to share with you my thoughts about what these rock carvings represent. I think it's important to remember when we consider these Neolithic people that they weren't less intelligent than us, they just had a different frame of reference. They didn't have the benefit of thousands of years of educational and scientific development. They were busy, they were taking the time to carve these things. So what were they? I think they represent, with all these circles, cup marks, concentric circles, it's represented the thing that dominates their life, the sky, with the sun, the moon, and the various halos that are attached to those. It may be a ritualistic thing or a religious thing. Who knows? It may have even been to do with sacrifice. But I think that's what it is. I think it is them creating an artistic representation of the thing that dominated their life, the sky. Savage away. I hope you enjoyed our little exploration of the enigmatic Neolithic cup and ring marks and our discovery in the park. I'm going to just teleport out of here, so please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.